Welcome back. Our next guest says, I grew up in a home with foster siblings. One of them came to me at 16, and we're still family today. That's how I learned that care can last beyond placement. So I appreciate you joining us, Susan. How are you?
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for inviting me.
Same. I'm so excited for this conversation. So let's talk about it. You grew up in a family that fostered children. What's one memory from your childhood that you believe quietly shaped how you actually lead today?
Oh, probably the biggest impact was when the younger of the two foster sisters that I had, each, like one after the other, a couple of years each, was leaving. And the look on her face as they were driving off, and she was kind of sitting in the back seat, like surrounded by bags of stuff my parents had bought her, luggage they had bought her, and she was like 9 or 10 years old and just sort of staring straight ahead, like being taken to she didn't know where.
Yeah.
And that kind of moment of, oh my God, this is crazy. How is this kid moving it to yet another whoever, whatever, home or group home or something? And just the look on her face. And I was a couple of years younger than that and just kind of really like was like branded in me.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually had a friend that ended up in six different foster homes. I can't even imagine, having to go from family to family to family and feeling that alone, and you mentioned just the suitcase part of things. My friend, may he rest in peace, actually not with us anymore, but he always mentioned that he would have to travel in trash bags,
Yeah.
and it's like, wow, like how, as a young child having to experience that, where's the mental, right? And you obviously become such an advocate in this space. You now adopt, your own. So how cool is it to come back full circle to know that I'm actually giving back because I was, as you mentioned, I was really struck by that moment in my life, not wanting someone to feel that. Is that why you end up wanting to adopt as well? Is just to kind of give back in that sense?
I think so on some level, but I think it was more selfish than that, right? Like it was just felt like what I needed to do, what was like out there for me to do. It wasn't sort of like, oh, well, I want to give back to the world. It wasn't so magnanimous. It was more just like my instinct. And I think that instinct got
Yeah.
formed by, what I saw as a kid.
I And you have your own, but you also adopted kids. What does that look like, balancing the biological and adoptive identities? Like, how has parenting in that way influenced your view of what family support actually should look like?
It's funny because someone just reminded me of this, and I remembered it when they told me, but that they had said that when I had two biological daughters and then adopted one, my son, older son, then had another biological daughter, then adopted our second son, who was actually older than our daughter. But they said that I had said, remember, that I was glad I had two biological kids before I adopted because I could see how you love each of them so differently. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't think, oh, this is how like adoptive love and biological love is what's different. That wasn't what's different. It's just every kid is different. So who knows which
Mm.
part of it is what, in terms of the love
I love that
that
you
you.
experienced it that way, though, because I'm not going to lie to you. My mom was really my aunt. She had four of her own kids, and she adopted three of us. I think I mentioned that last time I spoke to you. And I did feel the difference. I felt the difference on how she would take care of her own kids and the way that she would take care of us. And I think my sister to this day still holds that resentment because she felt different, right?
Yeah.
And no shade to her. She did the best she could with what she knew. But it's what you're saying, right? Is that there is no different identity. They're just all my kids.
They're just
I
all
love
different
them all the same.
to the
They
ends of
just
the
may be
earth.
different characters, right? Different personalities that you got to kind of shape in that sense. But I love it. So you said you had two, right? Two boys or two
Two girls
girls?
biologically, then adopted our
Two
older
boys.
son, then had another daughter biologically, and then our second
Got it.
son, who's fourth age-wise, but fifth to join our family. Then he came home. So I say like we produce girls and import boys.
I love it. Yeah, I'm in this space. I remember being young. I was like, if I have two girls, I'm adopting two boys. If I have two boys, I'm adopting two girls, vice versa. And I have a little girl and a little boy now. Me and my wife actually talk about it. It's fostering, right? What does that look like? Right now, we're still with a 1 and 4 year old, so we're still trying to navigate that part of my
Yeah,
life.
yeah,
Um,
step by step.
but yeah, I have the sense of giving back, and I would do the same as you. It's if I had a boy and a girl, I'm adopting a boy and a girl. If I had, so I love that you actually did that. That was just always one of my things. Just even, I don't know about you, but I have a thing of even numbers. Do you have a thing
Oh,
for
that's so
even
interesting
numbers?
because I actually like the odd numbers. We have five.
Really? Oh man, I love even numbers. I used to, when I was younger, I used to do some weird things. I would buy things in twos. Realized I was spending more money doing that. Yeah. I mean, I was
So
young and no one told me
interesting.
anything different.
Like you're bringing balance to your life or something. Like you.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. Even like when I share, like it has to be even, or you take two, I take two. I try to always make it, even instead. So it's funny.
So funny.
Um, I love this though. You relocated your whole family as well to Israel 20 years ago after adopting. What was that shift like, and how did I even sharpen your sense of mission?
Wait, I don't think I understand the question. I missed the middle part
What
of
was
the
the shift
question.
like? How did that sharpen your sense of mission, taking your whole family to Israel?
Sharpen my sense of mission. That's so interesting. It's such an interesting question. There wasn't that sense, like that's not like what pulled us here. We initially came to Israel. We were living outside of Boston, Massachusetts, and we initially came here because we're adopting our second son, right? And he was our fifth kid. And we
Hmm.
thought, oh, like we're just all working all the time and trying to just stay afloat. Let's move to a kibbutz, right? A
Hmm.
community in Israel and just kind of chill for a couple of years. And then we'll go back to America so that we can integrate Zamir and our younger son and just kind of be more relaxed. And that worked really well. Like, and he came to us deaf and not speaking any English or Hebrew, right? Just Amharic. And so it was really good that we had a lot more flexibility to really focus on him and to, eventually get him cochlear implants and to be able to do all that here where there's socialized medicine, which is very nice. And
Love it.
and where we had a lot more flexibility in our lives to kind of tend to him, be with him, integrate him. And so that's what we did. But then we just kind of ended up staying a third year on the kibbutz. And then I got a fellowship in Jerusalem. So we moved to Jerusalem. And that's where I developed Second Nurture. And then we just kind of found our home here. It's like, I think it's nice as a multiracial family also to be in Israel because like, nobody looks at my Ethiopian kids and thinks like, how are you Jewish? Like it's just totally
Yeah.
normal here, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So Second Nature was really born through all of this. Tell us how it
Second
got
Nurture, yeah.
started. Tell her where you are today.
Yeah, I think it was like inspired by the kibbutz. In a lot of ways, like this communal, the power of community, and
Hmm.
and so then when I came to Jerusalem and I had this fellowship to develop what became Second Nurture, I was able to kind of take that learning and that experience of community and apply it to fostering and adoption from foster care. That, realizing that a lot of foster families, 30 to 50% of foster families quit within a year. They stop fostering.
Wow.
And a lot of that is, and you had mentioned this in sort of the intro you sent me that people are overwhelmed by the burdens of fostering, not just the
Yeah.
kids who need a lot of support and help. And we were so blessed that we were on this kibbutz when our son really needed some intensive focus from us.
Yeah.
But the bureaucracy of it all is a full-time job for foster parents sometimes who already have a full-time job plus
Yeah.
kids, plus kids who've got trauma. Like, it's too much. And so so Second Nurture became this idea that we partner with an existing community. They're mostly synagogues, but also churches, and we're hoping to expand to like LGBTQ centers, like any kind of like community that's really like has a center, kind of has like something that pulls
Hmm.
everybody in,
Yeah.
can become a Second Nurture host community. And then foster families or people who have adopted from foster care from that area who may not have anything to do with that community, it doesn't matter,
Hmm.
right? But come to that community once a month where there's like support circles and the kids have activities and it's all free to the families. And then members of that synagogue, that host community, volunteer not just on that day doing
Hmm.
childcare and helping the parents and the support group piece of it, but also throughout the months, right? So if someone's like, I need a tutor for my kid, we can just put it out to the community. Hey, somebody can tutor math here. There's a kid who's been in 4 schools in 5 years and could really use some support this year.
Yeah.
So we just get volunteers from the community so that we're able to leverage a whole community in support of these foster families.
So when you planted a seed in 2016, 2017, right? The model accelerated even past COVID, right? What a tough time to really have something so new. What changed during that time, like practically and in the mindset?
So we had been probably for about a year at that point in person, just starting at a few communities. And then, of course, everything switched to Zoom. And the hard pieces of that was mostly the kids, because the kids really love seeing other kids who are in the foster system also, who they don't have to explain themselves to, who they just kind of can hang out and be themselves. And so that was a really hard piece. And on Zoom, and like we'd have Zooms for the parents, but the kids would come and say hi to each other, and they were like, hi, hi, like just longing for each other. So it was so good we'd get back in person and those families could hop on and the kids could be together again. And but one of the kind of, I guess, things that we learned from that time also was that we could do a lot by Zoom that you can't necessarily do when you need a location and, and all of the physical things. So we experimented with different things. And one of those things was a big success that we're now going to, that we continue doing on Zoom. And now we're expanding to more communities to do on Zoom, which is a support group essentially for foster grandparents. So if my kid is fostering, and I might be like, why are they bringing this, tough stuff into their lives? I'm worried about my kid. I don't think they should be doing this, but I want to be a supportive parent or grandparent, and so that
Yeah.
they are able to get together with a facilitator and talk about what their own pain and worry is, and also how they can kind of step up to be supportive, because that can make such a big difference for the foster parents, right? To be
Yeah.
able to
I didn't even
continue.
think of that. Yeah, yeah, for the grandparents space, right? It's not just you as a parent that takes on a child. It's really the family, right? And what does it look like from the family dynamic of it? And I love that you do this monthly gathering, right? Adults meet, the kids meet, there's food, there's fellowship. Why is that structure so intentional?
Well, first of all, there's really something. I mean, I think we all learned this during COVID. Like, it's so important to be together and in person. I don't often get to go to these, what we call the cohort gatherings, but I was just in the States visiting all of our locations, and I was able to plan to overlap with the kind of the summer event in Chicago. And
Yeah.
that's like for all of the groups, everybody comes together for this big kind of picnic and hangout. And I was just, I sit here and I like write grants and I like, do on like at my computer. It's kind of like in my living room,
Yeah.
like to be able to be there and see it. And there were probably like, I don't know, in this 1 hour, I asked the parents, can I join and listen in? And they said, of course. So I saw probably like 8 or 10 really hard things get like fixed or get on a path to being fixed in that 1 hour. I mean, parents crying, my daughter is in so much mouth pain and I cannot find a pediatric dental anesthesiologist who takes Medicare. And this mom can't afford thousands of dollars for a private, right?
Yeah.
And someone else right then and there goes, oh, I got the perfect guy. He's amazing. Click, click, click. Here's his number. Right. And that mom was like, oh my God, thank you. I'll call him tomorrow. Like just things like that that can like do a parent in
Yeah.
that just get,
Not That's actually really good. I was talking to another leader. Funny that you say that. I was talking to another leader in the autism space, and what she does is once a month she has these events with moms, and then they have all their clinicians actually take the kids right while the moms are just hanging out, like you mentioned, having the conversation, maybe over a cup of wine, and really getting to learn from one another, like being their own resources. Because sometimes people feel like they're alone, and then when we can actually build this community, realize like, no, we're actually all in this together, and that we can help, and if we ever need something, we're just a call away. So Susan, yeah, building community is always, especially in this space, is always going to work out. It allows people to feel
so.
like they have the sense of someone to rely on, if something happens.
That's right,
Um,
100%.
yeah,
And
what I love is that. Go ahead.
no, no, please.
No, I was gonna say another thing that you do that it's amazing is that you begin to hire staff in each city. Like, then you pivoted to 100% volunteer-based expansion, which is kind of what you talk about. Why the shift? What made you believe that it could succeed with that model? People would have done it completely different, but you realize that this works, and it is working, right? Here
Yeah.
we are years later. So, why that?
Yeah. So, well, really, it was Like we first did it for financial reasons. Like we can't, we was like, we're not going to raise $200,000 every time we want to open in a new city to hire a director there and to hire. So we thought, okay, listen, like, what do we really want? We want the community to take ownership of this. And that happens to be free, right, for a
Yep,
new
yep.
community to do. I mean, it's not entirely free because we have a whole executive staff that onboards everybody and that teaches everybody. We provide all of the materials. Like it's really quite, what's the word, turnkey, right? That, and we're really, really there for them any time of day or night, right? If they have stuff that they need to work through or address in their communities. But we immediately got 3 communities signed on. We just finished the materials to do this, onboarding of a community-driven model in the late spring, early summer, and we already have 3 and a 4th community signed up to join us. Actually 4, yeah.
So
And we
meaningful.
haven't even like really reached out yet. And so we're super excited about that. And we're just trying to figure out how to like keep our core like funded and going, and then we can multiply. I think it's endless, honestly. Almost every community we ask says, oh, we want to do that. We've been looking for something exactly like that that really engages our families. Plus, we create lots of Jewish materials for, not for the foster families because they're not Jewish, but for the communities so that they can learn about fostering and Jewish tradition and history and kind of see how it's really a part of who we are.
What was your background before you got into this space? Was it an educator?
I'm a rabbi.
Got it.
So,
You
like,
because you bring so much education. I'm like, was she an educator? Is this where this
yeah,
all
I
comes
do have a
from?
degree in education.
Okay, okay.
Fun and I love it. I love doing that piece of it. Someday,
No, I could tell. I love it.
yeah, it's really fun
How
to
do
do.
you train a volunteer-driven community so the quality and the heart and the consistency actually remain intact? I know you talked about just building all this onboarding. I could imagine that has to do with it. But how do you get everyone on the same page in different cities? I think right now you're in 7+ cities nationally.
Right, right. Right, because of the new ones that we're just opening. Yeah,
Yeah.
7, 8. So we have our onboarding is we have like the high level and then we have the more detailed for the different roles, right? So the high level is basically here are all the roles involved, here are the goals, here's where we want to get. And we really emphasize you can start small. You just start with having a group. Have a group, a space for a group of foster families to come once a month. Someone from your community becomes the family support specialist who kind of facilitates that group. And then we have training for the family support specialists, and we have training for the childcare volunteers, and we have training for the for general volunteers. That's really, it's high level, but it just gives people a tool to be able to do this. So if you do volunteer, say to tutor a kid, right, that will give you education, just a high level 45-minute thing so that you have some tools, because this is not a kid who's just struggling in math. This is a kid who's had a lot of trauma, and math seems like who the hell cares, right? But we do want the kid to have successes, right, and move forward. And so how do you kind of like give somebody the tools they really need to help a kid who's in that position, be able to move forward. So we have training on these really specific things, but also overview. And then we have every 2 weeks meeting with our national coordinator who meets with all of the family support specialists, and they just come together and say, here's where I'm stuck, here's where we're moving forward. Oh, let me help you with that. I've figured out the perfect form for that, whatever it is, just to really help each other. So it's sort of second nurture for second nurture, right?
You're in a different time zone. How does this all work? Like, are you working at nighttime? Are you working throughout the whole day? Like,
I
right
work,
now, at my time, it's 10 o'clock. You said it was 5 o'clock on your
right,
time. Like,
right.
how are you even making this happen?
So yeah, it's a weird sleep schedule. Like I'll
I can
usually like
imagine.
I won't start working till 9:30 or 10 in the morning, and then I'll work until about 2:30 or 3. Then usually I'll like take a break for 45 minutes or an hour. Then I've got meetings until like 9 or 10 at night.
That is crazy. Yeah,
Because
I
I
totally
love,
forgot that.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you're working all day, all night. Um, what's really unique, I think that you mentioned it kind of ahead of the game is you're also in the space of AI. You're really realizing how it can help in some spaces. I think you may have mentioned like administrative things, maybe grant writing. I know some people use it on grant writing. How do these technological tools really amplify that your human-led approach?
Oh, that's such a good question. And it's funny because we do struggle with it. And I saw that one of your, I think, interviews. First of all, I saw that woman that you interviewed with, was it Foster Adopt Connection? Is that what it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
called?
yeah, yeah.
Wonderful. Makes me want to open up in Kansas or Missouri because that looks phenomenal. So I
She
better reach
is.
out to them because they look super cool and I'd love to talk to them. But also, I saw that you talked about AI and not to fear AI. And I think we go
Hmm.
between being like, oh my God, this is amazing, to, oh my God, this is terrifying. Like, we're not sure because we're such,
Yeah.
like, it's such a good question that you asked because we're such a human based organization. Like, it's really what
Hmm.
ours, like connecting human beings. So then for us to kind of like go to AI and say, hey, here's all our information, here's the grant application, and then we do it. Like, can you organize this for us? And then, of course, it's a lot of editing and making sure things are accurate and making sure that it's got our heart in it. But it
Hmm.
does really help to like organize all the thinking and to just sort of see the steps and even formatting, right? It'll say like, oh,
Yeah.
here's a good format for that. And it's, we're between being totally freaked out and totally in awe.
Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying the podcast, we first want to say thank you. And we also just want to give you a little insight of what we're up to at Francis. Some don't even realize that we're working with organizations to help them use AI to create that real human communication experiences, whether that's actually supporting your families, those patients, or the entire community. We're actually creating tech that connects. Check it out, francis.ai. I love ChatGPT. I would literally sit here and I would
Yeah.
talk to it. I don't know if you're typing to it or talk to it, but I would like, hey, I'm talking to Susan. She's in the foster, and I would just have a whole conversation the way that I would do. And like you mentioned, it would just give it to me all nice and formatted. I love that you said I go back and I make sure that I edit all this or spruce it up, put in my tone, my brand. I mean, in reality, if you were to build like for me, ChatGPT, I was able to build the brain and my tone and my brand that allowed it to really always be on brand. So when I have my assistant actually do a lot of my content, I actually don't even post content anymore. Like she's posts all my content. Of course, I do the videos, but
Right.
now she's actually creating everything in my brand and my tone in the back end. And I'm like, how lovely is that? That I could really do the things that I love, which is show up on camera, have conversations like this, and on the back end, someone else is doing all this, and it'll never feel like it's not on brand. So AI is one of those tricky things as well, but I don't know that it would ever replace human connection.
Right.
For me, like I love having the conversation with a human, and I don't know that I have the same conversation with AI that gave me the same feelings, right?
Right.
Seeing your face, seeing the smiles. AI just doesn't give us that.
Right.
So no, I definitely think it's great for some things, and it's some of those things that you definitely can't use it in spaces of taking away the human to human,
Right.
because there's just something special about that. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I love that. Because you're not government funded, you've been I- insulated from some funding cuts. But what do you
Well,
see when others are under pressure?
oh, it's a nightmare to watch, like organizations, like wonderful foster organizations around us being cut or changing their websites to like to take away inclusion and like it's just
Yeah.
heart wrenching. And they are still who they are and they're kind of doing what they need to do externally. But wow, is that really tough to see? But it does impact us because now like the competition, right, for the private dollars is much more intense
Yep.
because people who are getting government funds are now looking. And so that's been really hard for us. And they're all worthy organizations, right? You want everybody to succeed. And we very much see ourselves as like the water between the rocks, right? That we're not trying to replicate other things that other people are doing really well. We want to kind of like lift all the spaces where that don't get the light.
Yeah. Where did I go?
I don't know.
Oh, one moment. Oh, wait. Here we go.
I can
Camera
still
acting
hear
up.
you.
Well, that's what happens when we're live virtually. We just have technical difficulties, but it'll be up here in just a bit. I guess just warming up. There we go. Look at it. There we go. Appreciate it, Susan, for being with me during these times. Um, Susan, okay, so I guess my
Oh
camera
my.
just wants to act up. And we're back. And then we're gone. What
fake
is
out.
going on with this camera? I know. What is going on here? One moment.
Usually
Let
it's
me
on my end. I'm just glad it's not this
I don't
time.
know what's going on here. Let's see. And definitely have my editor work on this. Hopefully we can stay here. All right, here we go. We're back. Um, one of the things that I would love to talk about, it's what's happening in our country, right, in the U.S., where biological parents have been deported, families caught in immigration policy crossfire, the tension between mandate and humanity. How do you kind of lead through those moments?
Oh, God. It's so awful. So, one of our communities was especially concerned about this. So, we brought in a lawyer from a nonprofit organization that
Mm,
works with immigration and all of it. And so she came in and she spoke to the foster parents about how to protect themselves and how to protect their kids because foster kids are also getting deported. Special place in hell, truly. And
mm-hmm.
and so we're trying to educate people. And at one point, that was another time I happened to be in the States and happened to be at this meeting, which was in I think in the spring. And they said, and there, like one of the parents stood up and she said, "Hey, everybody, we're on a WhatsApp with each other about fostering, but if you need help on anything, we should reach out to each other." And it was so beautiful to see. They're just like, call us. We were here for each other no matter what. And I'm not sure, we're not a policy organization,
Mm-hmm.
but we're doing our best to not cooperate,
Yeah.
at least, and to try to protect our families and our kids. And we've had kids whose biological parents were deported. I think we've got two families where that's the case. And can you imagine being a foster kid separated from your bio parents for whatever hard reasons, and then knowing that they were deported? Like
Yep.
it, it's
It's
just
hard. Hard times.
so the opposite of good values.
I agree. Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely sad to see, some of the videos that you see and just knowing families being separated in that sense. Like, I can't even imagine. I mean, I know what it felt like for me not having my mom, you know,
That's right.
and to know she was deported and it would even be more harder for me to make that connection. Like, yeah, that is definitely some tough times. Can't even imagine what some of these families are dealing with, at that level. Um, when we talk about for individuals, let's talk to these individuals. What's one small move that you would ask someone to make in their own community to continue to support our foster families?
Well, certainly if anyone lives near Second Nurture, if you have anything specific that you can share,
Hmm.
whether it's like tutoring, like I said, or say you're like really good at organizing spaces, like that's really needed. Right. So like say your mom gets a call and she's like, okay, you're gonna get this sibling group tomorrow. And she's like, okay. I have this room I need to clean out.
Yeah.
Someone who's like good at that is a godsend. We're really hoping this year to increase the number of people in our host communities who become licensed to do respite care. Right. So if like a foster family, say the parents have to go out of state, they can't necessarily bring the kids or they can't bring the
Yeah.
kids. Right? And then so the kid has to go to respite and then that kid goes to respite and doesn't know what the hell's going on. It's like new people. We don't know why I'm here. Little kids don't understand like, are my foster parents coming back, not coming back? And this
Hmm.
way it can be like hanging out with people you know. Right. So these
Yeah.
are the
Yeah.
people who are doing childcare or hanging out or tutoring a kid or whatever it is. And then you could be like, oh, you're going to go to uncle or auntie so and so for the weekend,
Hmm.
because they're licensed. And for the kid, it's just a little jaunt to have some fun with this people they know, as opposed to just being like rehomed somewhere for a few days or a week.
I love the space. I love that you're so deep into this space and you've made so many huge strides in what we do. Um, and I ask you this before we get to that blind question. What's your vision when your model reaches 100 communities? Because I can imagine that's just what we want to be at, right? 100 communities. What changes do you hope society actually sees?
So one of our goals is to really like break down the wall between foster families and kids and society at large. So like a lot of people look at the foster care system, especially if they're in cities, and like, oh my God, it's so big. I mean, wouldn't even know where to start, right? But if we have ways for people to come in and connect, all of a sudden you're a family, right? Like as one of our foster families had been with us for a number of years now, said, we are a family. She said at first it's at a synagogue. She's like, listen, I'll be blunt. We're African American, they're Jewish. Like, why would we go there? She goes, but now 2 years later, and now it's been actually over 3 years they've been with us, she said, we're a family. And we really are a family. And so if society at large starts seeing foster families and kids as just part of their communities, then you do what you do for community, right? Which is you step up. And so it kind of changes that whole perspective. And that's one of our overarching goals. And to that end, we have 2 films out. One that kids from the system who are in transition age youth made about Judge Songhai Armstead, who's this amazing woman who grew up in foster care in LA and is now a judge and now leading like a major department at Department of Family and Children's Services. And the other was made by this organization called Click Healthcare about the chair of our board. He and his husband found their son on the subway as a newborn infant. And their story, and it's called 18 Months, and it is just beautiful. I recommend anybody. I can send you the links to both films. No,
Oh, well, that's so funny because I was just actually about to ask for the 18-month one because it was an award-winning film. I seen
yes.
that.
So
Literally
is
just about to
is
ask you. You just took that right out of my mouth.
yeah. I'll send you both links. That they both won
Yeah.
major prizes. Like, I was like, how did like we're not, we're not in the business, right? We're just this social service organization, but somehow these 2 films sort of fall in our lap, and we have a third one coming out now, again with the
Wow.
transition age youth, who made it about a man named Yarmon, who is this incredible philanthropist who grew up in foster care.
That's so cool. I was actually just in Boston. As I looked at some of the locations, I was in the Medford area actually,
Yeah.
and that was home. Boston is home for me. So that's where I was born, and then I left. I was adopted. At 7 years old, my mom decided to move us to Orlando just because for a better life, ideally. We were living in Lawrence at the time. So when I went back to
That's
Boston,
where my
it's like
dad grew up.
I've never seen this place ever in my life. But it's so beautiful, and I just love it. I truly do, and I see that you have so many locations in the Andover area. I was seeing that as well, so kind of familiar
That's
with
right.
those areas. That's so cool. That is so cool. I leave you this blind question before we wrap up. You place yourself in the gap for so many families, but what's one moment when you felt like you were the one needing support, and who or what showed up for you in that moment? Because I believe as sometimes we pour into others, and we can't pour from an empty cup. Sometimes someone has to be pouring into you. What does that look like?
This is true. And there have been times, especially since October 7th here in Israel, where I just feel like I don't know how to keep moving. I don't know how to put one foot in front of the other anymore. And a neighbor of mine, shortly after the 7th, I didn't know her that well at the time, but I just sort of said, how do we go on? And she said, we put our energy in what we know to be true. And that was really powerful for me. Like, oh, I know to be true that kids need stability and they need to feel like they are the whole world to some grown up somewhere, right? They need
Yeah.
to feel like mirrored in their lives and to master their own story and to just be, right? And to have a place to stand in the world. And so if I know this to be true, then that kind of gives me a path for me to move forward. But also like my staff, like everybody on my staff are incredible. And in fact, our COO, Jen Morin, she's a healer, also like in her life, in her world, in her other
Yeah.
jobs. And she's just really like a force that keeps me centered, you know.
I love it. Yeah, we need it. We need it. Sometimes we come across as the strong ones, but imposter syndrome sneaks in.
Oh my
Life
God.
starts to life, right? Like I hear you. I hear you. This is not for the weak. I always like to say, doing a nonprofit, being in the space of impact and not really chasing paychecks could at times be very, very hard. But as you mentioned, understanding what we're doing it for, understanding our purpose and passion, and remembering that, and like surrounding yourself with good people. People that understand, because sometimes it's also hard because I always say as entrepreneurs, as in the nonprofit world, very small world. You don't come across too many people in the same space. And when you do, it is that like, oh my God, thank you. This is what I'm going through, right? And you just start
Yeah.
going, and which is why I really love to have these conversations. You know, you mentioned about some of the foster organizations. There's so many of them, and I always get so excited because I am that young individual. And believe it or not, I actually had a story with one individual where I'm a foster kid, as I mentioned, and I always had this dream as a young kid to one day want to work with wrestlers, right? Like that. I'm a wrestling nerd. And 2 years ago, I would say I really came out the wrestling closet and I started to do wrestling content. I said, you know what? I'm going to build a community around wrestling. So many people get bullied for watching wrestling. So many people love wrestling, just don't talk about it. And wrestling to me was my escape from reality. So 2 years ago, I decided to go, on this wrestling journey. Now I sit with 65,000 followers on TikTok. I've grown like 1,500 on YouTube, and that's great, right? And then recently, happened so fast because life happens fast. I get an email saying, "Hey, you got to be back in Boston if you want to interview XYZ." The Hardy Boys actually is what it was. And I'm like, wait a minute. I watched these guys when I was growing up, these wrestlers. So I'm going back to Boston where it all started, right? And I always set myself an expectation. And the audio went wrong, Susan. The audio was not good. And I was so broken. I was like this knot in my chest. Like the next morning, because I get back in Orlando, I'm trying to upload everything from my editor, and realizing it didn't happen. So the next morning, I'm so heartbroken. I didn't want to get out of my bed. I'm like, oh my God, like I can't believe I failed. To me, it was like I failed, right? But it was just a lesson. And I failed XYZ. I said, you gotta. I prayed, and I just got up. And the first person that I spoke to that day was someone from the foster, organization. And it all just hit me. I am this young kid that was adopted and got to see his dream come to life. And there's just not so many people that can do that, right? Because we didn't have the right people in our lives to navigate us to those. And people always ask me, like, out of all these brothers, it's like 15, 16 of you, what makes you the special one? What makes you in this, put you in this space? And I always say, God allowed me to have good people and put people in my life when I needed it the most. So Susan, while we do this work, sometimes we just don't know who we're going to talk to on the other side. That allows us to realize, oh my God, this is why I do it. And look how far I've come. Because we're always on the go, go, go.
Right.
We tend to never really see how far we've come. And Susan, you've come such a long, long way from your family doing this years and years ago to you continuing this cycle. And I can imagine your kids will continue the cycle. And like, that's what it looks like when we talk about breaking the cycle.
That's
So
right.
Susan, I truly appreciate this conversation we've had today. I,
Right.
I ask you, what is the websites? What is the social medias that people want to continue to tap into what you're doing?
Yeah, just really to nurture.org. Come to nurture.org and you'll really get a sense of who we are and what we do. I think we've laid it out pretty like straightforwardly and
Yeah.
from the various perspectives, whether you're a host community or foster family or just interested.
Well, thank you so much for the conversation. Guys, if you guys want to see
So
more
much.
of this, yeah, no, for sure. Make sure you guys do like, subscribe, and comment. Check out Susan. My name's Efrain. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Laters.
Efrain, so good to meet you. Bye.